Hello, everyone. Welcome to the MyCon podcast. I am Sean Kimbaloye. In any democracy, a strong opposition provides checks and balances, offers alternative visions, and gives citizens real choices at the ballot box. But today, what do you make of the opposition? Fractured, distracted, or groups locked in many internal battles? The People's Democratic Party, once a dominant force in Nigerian politics, is still grappling with deep internal crises. The Labour Party, which surged on the back of youthful enthusiasm in 2023, is also wrestling with its own challenges. And then there is the ADC, the new force, if you like. It's the party hosting the political heavyweights in the opposition. Now, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has left the PDP to join the party. Peter Obi, Nasir El-Rufai, Rotimi Amechi, and all the top political figures are also involved in this alliance. So, here are the questions. Will the opposition get it right this time around? As we look ahead to 2027, that's the perspective. Can they truly unite before that election year? And what does a weak opposition mean for Nigerian democracy? Well, on this episode of the MyCon podcast, Demola Olarewaju, the Special Assistant on Digital Media Strategy to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, joins me on the podcast. Let's get into it. Thanks so much, Demola. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Shane. It's my pleasure to be here.
I appreciate it.
I'm now the Senior Political Assistant.
To Atiku Abubakar?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So, invariably, it means that you are no longer a member of the PDP.
Oh, yes, I'm not. I resigned from the PDP 2 days after His Excellency resigned.
So it's a case of where your principal goes, is where you go.
Well, which is also a case of values also, because, I joined the PDP for certain things, for certain reasons. Those reasons are no longer there. And the PDP itself, the PDP doesn't, it's the opposition introduction, which you mentioned in your introduction. The PDP is no longer the force that it once was and no longer has that drive. The PDP today has become, for me, merely a vehicle to satisfy ethnic desires, talking about zoning and doing things like that. Those are inconsistent with the values that some of us joined the party for, which were the nationalist values, the fact that, everyone could come into the PDP and be a member of the PDP. Now that's no longer there. And then I think most disturbingly for me is the fact that you had several key members of the party, work against its presidential candidate in the last election. And again, that, tells you that this is no longer a party. Because if you have a political party, the idea is that everybody from members in Katsina to members in Borno to members in Rivers to members all across the country are all working in the same direction. But you had a situation where 5 governors of the party in 2023 came out to work against the party. So I think, that is a party that is not serious. That's a party that has lost focus. It's a party that continues to major in the minor. And, most disturbingly, the party has not lived up to to its opposition billing. And so, I think, PDP left most of us who want to play opposition.
In your own view, you think PDP is dead?
Well, as far as national politics is concerned, for now and in the near future, I think the PDP has lost national relevance. I think the PDP will still remain a force in certain states of Nigeria. But as far as national politics is concerned, the PDP is no longer fit for purpose.
Is that party redeemable?
At this point, I would say that, if you had asked me this a few months ago, I could say, yes, it was redeemable. But at this point, I do not think so. Because there are key people in the party. It's almost a circus show at this point. So there are forces that want to keep the party tethered to the APC. And then there are forces that also want to take over from those forces that are keeping the party tethered so that they can negotiate directly with the APC and keep PDP tethered to APC. And those guys also know. They know that, look, these guys also want to hijack it from me so that they go and negotiate with the APC, not because they want to defeat the APC, but because they want to negotiate directly with the APC. So that's where the problem is now. So in that situation, I cannot honestly count maybe 5 to 10 leaders of the party who are actually sincere. But, we believe that patriots will coalesce, patriots will work together for 2027 to unseat the incumbent president.
And that will be easy?
Of course, definitely not. The incumbent president is someone who, he prioritizes politics over governance, is somebody who plays politics takes political advantage of anything that, he sees an advantage to be taken. But in the long run, he's not God. he can be unseated. I believe that very strongly.
Though he beat your principal silly the last time.
Well, a lot of factors, but we learned from that. And what we've learned from that is that the party base in Nigeria is not as strong as we expect that it should be. All the candidates won 12 states. In an election where there was a narrative against him, a narrative of Southern presidency running against him, or running against a tide, a political tide, he won 12 states. The remarkable thing is, out of those 12 states, only 5 were PDP states. He won more APC states, which was 7, than PDP states. So I think, now we have adapted to that. We have seen that the role of the party, especially as far as PDP is concerned, is overrated. So what we are going to have in the next election is that some people will answer PDP in name and work for another party. Some people will answer another party in name and work for our party. So we expect that we've readjusted to that reality, and we are working in line with that reality now.
The notion or the fact that Bola Tinubu has never lost an election, does that scare some of you in the Atiku camp?
How many elections has Bola Tinubu contested? He contested Senate in 1992, he contested governor in 1999, and he never contested any other position since then. I think Bola Tinubu is afraid of losing. And
he's run election 4 times and he's won all those 4.
Yes, that's my point. So he has run for Senate, he won the Senate election.
Yeah.
He has run for governor, he won the gubernatorial election, and then he won his re-election, and now he's running for president.
So if you look at also, just remember, just to also put some perspective, if you look at Lagos, for example, he has held sway as a political structure since 1999, and he's still holding sway. And that shows, and find me one single politician in Nigeria that has that level of political organization like Bola Tinubu.
I put forward Atiku Abubakar. I think as far as national politics is concerned, people forget that Atiku Abubakar contested for the first time for president in 1992, contested to be president. He was contesting as in his 40s with MKO Abiola and the likes of them, and he stepped down. I think the main difference between both of them is that Atiku Abubakar is not as desperate as people sometimes portray him to be, or as people sometimes assume that he is.
So you want to compare Bola Tinubu and Atiku Abubakar in terms of structure and political organization?
I think in this country, those are the two people who have run at par for the number of years. I mean, think about it. Atiku Abubakar left office as vice president in 2007. The man is still relevant almost 20 years after. People like to assume that, it's money. People like to assume that, it's patronage. The man has been out of office for over 20 years, for close to 20 years, but he's still relevant in the politics. I mean, if we run on PDP platform today, we will win the PDP ticket again, but we've won it twice. We've used that platform twice. We've seen that, look, this is not a platform that can win. And that's why we are here. And for me, it's very remarkable that at his age, 78, the man is still at the forefront of leading the opposition structure in this country, bringing everybody together. He's not afraid to start all over again. That for me is
Atiku has lost election as much as Tinubu has won elections.
Well, I mean,
is more of a loser, and these are the facts. This is not. It's more of a loser. Tinubu is more of a winner. If you look at the figures, and we're going to put it on the screen, Atiku ran election as a president, 2011.
Yes.
2000.
At the primaries.
2011. In 2015, he lost in the primaries. He ran election in 2019. He lost. He ran election in 2023. Is lost. So, and if you look at Bola Tinubu's history politically, he's won all the election that he ran for. But on the side, there is only one election that Atiku has ever won in his I'm stating the fact.
Yes, I mean these are
only
facts.
One election.
Facts, I'm trying to put the
being
fact
a governor of Adamawa State, he won.
I'm trying to put
then
the
he became the vice president, and he's
yes.
never been on the ballot and won anything. Do you think that kind of person can defeat a Bola Tinubu with the facts out there?
Atiku Abubakar in a free and fair election will defeat Bola Tinubu 1-on-1. We were
the 2023 election.
We were unfortunate that it became a 3-way race. Okay, it became a 3-way race. The PDP itself. I mean, look, people underestimate. The golden boy of the last election was clearly, in the opinion of many, was His Excellency Peter Obi. But people forget that in that same election, Atiku was running against a tide. There was the clamor for Southern presidency. There was the clamor for how can Fulani do another 8 years. We lost some of our key allies. The party that he was running on was sabotaging him, and that man won 12 states in that election. He won 12 states. And people, see, I say this freely, that people sometimes assume that, oh, Atiku will win primaries. The reason why Atiku is this strong is because Atiku is a powerhouse in politics. He's a powerhouse in terms of the fact that he is perhaps the only politician in Nigeria today who draws people in, who draws people along, okay? So these people are always willing to go with him. You see how the ADC is being accepted all across the north. You see how people are defecting in the Lagos state and various other states. That's who Atiku Abubakar is. So for me, that actually stands him out. And the fact that, he's willing to put himself forward, he's not afraid of loss, he's not afraid of failure.
You think that Nigerian youth will be favorably disposed to Atiku running again? Atiku is going to be 80 years in the next election.
Yes.
An 80-year-old to run the affairs of this youthful country. We have
his age with Bola Tinubu. I would say that Atiku Abubakar is as fit as anybody you put into this race. I mean, and the truth is, we all want a president who is fit. We all want a president who is mentally capable. Atiku Abubakar.
Do you think that Nigerians will be looking in the way of an 80-year-old leading this country? We have an over 60% of youthful voting population.
What Atiku putting forward differently from what Bola Tinubu is putting forward is that he's going to create opportunities for young people. He has said that his cabinet is going to have 35%, at least 35%, and we are discussing taking it to 50 now with the ADC platform, representation for women and young people. And this is not young people like myself or yourself calling ourselves young people. We are talking 30 below. We are talking the Gen Z age brackets. That these are the people who are going to come into government. This government has not been able to do that. So I think Nigerians will move forward from those kind of conversations in 2027, talking about age, talking about ethnicity. We've tried all that before. It didn't work for us. So this time around, we have to look for how do we effect change in this country. And if Atiku Abubakar is the person who can bring that change, then I think Nigerians will support him.
Let me ask you this question. Do you really think ADC stand a chance in a national election? And I give you perspective. I mean, believe me when I say these things. Like it or hate it. One's experience on this field, political journalism, you cannot take away the fact experience in this. There is no election that has been won by any political party at the center, either National Assembly election or presidential election, by a party that has not held sway in at least 12 states of the Federation. Those are the facts. ADC does not have one state in control. It only has one House of Reps member. And you're going to an election and you think that you want to win. This nation is too politically complex. In reality, Demola,
yes,
are you really thinking ADC on the first shot with this opposition coalition think that
politics,
2027 is for the taking for ADC?
And I will start by saying that I'm not one to underestimate Bola Tinubu at all. I know that he's somebody who plays very tough. He's someone who plays very hard. But I would say this also, that if there is any hope for Nigerians to unseat him in 2027, that hope lies with the ADC. And I think that, we need to look at 2023 elections to understand what may happen in 2027. In 2023, what you had was a party that was sabotaged, and what you had was a party where parties did not matter, basically. You had PDP sitting governors that were openly campaigning for the APC. You had PDP sitting governors that were clandestinely campaigning for the Labour Party, okay? And you had APC governors who also worked with us, okay? So what you will have now is no longer a question of whether it's ADC or whether it's Labour or whether it's PDP or whether it's Sheun Party or whether it's Demola Party. No, it is about Nigerians deciding that, look, we want these guys out. Now, PDP could have harnessed that if PDP had positioned itself and said, look, we are here, we want to be the opposition. I think that to unseat Bola Tinubu, what ADC needs to do is to align itself with the people and say, look, we are here, use us to kick this man out of power. So it's not necessarily about the political party itself or about the governors or about whoever. It's about the fact that the ADC simply needs to position itself. Nigerians are tired of this government. Nigerians are tired of the insecurity, are tired of the misgovernance and, the over-politicization of the country. Okay, so I think that ADC, backed by Nigerian people, will pull surprises in next election.
So let me summarize my earlier question and put it pointedly. ADC lacks national political structure.
ADC has structures. ADC has better structures today than PDP in certain states, than even APC in certain states of the country. I mean, look, the ADC wasn't just the last election proved it very clearly. Atiku Abubakar pulled certain numbers. You saw the numbers Atiku Abubakar pulled. That was with a party that was sabotaging him.
Even with the APC presidency, clandestinely, like you mentioned, supporting Atiku Abubakar.
No, they were not. It was.
You're not aware of.
There were certain personalities. There were certain personalities who wanted us. Okay, but there were very strong personalities who were in support of the APC continuing in power. We also campaigning for Mr.
You are aware that powerful people in the Buhari presidency were working for Atiku Abubakar and frustrated Bola Tinubu. Even at that,
I never saw any of those. I never saw any of those.
You are not aware.
I never saw
even
any of
after
those
the election, there are those who came out to say they
people.
worked for Atiku Abubakar against Bola Tinubu.
Personally, I saw some of those people. But you see, the politics is this. If people cannot come out to openly say they are supporting you, then there's a problem. Then you know you have a problem. If somebody tells you, just go, we are supporting you, but it's in our hearts, you know you have a problem. People came out. The only person that came out openly in the north, El Rufai, came out openly and stood for Bola Tinubu, daring the northern elders, proclaiming that power was definitely going to go to Bola Tinubu. That was what I saw. But you see, the consensus this time around is simple, is that the APC has failed at the center and we need to be able to work, across board. In terms of the national structures, I think ADC is better positioned in most of the northern states than even PDP in certain states. And I think that as time comes forward, when people start putting themselves forward for senatorial, for gubernatorial elections, we will see the difference and see that indeed the ACC has a very strong national structure. But again, I would say also that sometimes this structure can be inhibitive. And I say this as a party man, okay? I say this as someone who was a member of the PDP and who strongly believes in structures. When His Excellency mentioned to me that he was leaving the PDP, my first excitement was the fact that, look, here's an opportunity for us to do something new. Here's an opportunity for us to do something different. In PDP today, if you are going to have a campaign committee, all they would do is bring out the campaign committee list of the last election, photocopy it, Tipex out some names, put some new names, and so on. They always start with the same template. They always start with the same style of campaign. I think what we'll see in ADC is going to be a refreshing dimension to national campaigns, a refreshing dimension to how politics is done. And I look forward to that very strongly, Sean.
So it's quite interesting, though. So you look at the scenario that has played out, and even in Adamawa State, Atiku Abubakar is still not seen as a member of the ADC. Why hasn't he joined the ADC just yet?
Well, I think, at the right time, he would pick up membership of the ADC. But everybody knows his soul and spirit are with ADC. There is no meeting of that opposition coalition that was held that Atiku Abubakar has not been a part of. And again, for me, I find it very remarkable. At 79, at 78, many people will be tired of trying again, for fear of what people will tag them losers. But for him to still want to dare put himself in the field, still out there rallying the troops, I think, that is actually worthy of commendation.
Do you really believe about the 2027 election, that it's going to be free and fair?
I have my fears, huge fears that 2027 will be free and fair, But Tinubu doesn't exactly play fair. They're going to try and skew the odds in their favor as much as possible, from the security outfits to the electoral agencies, So I'm not confident that election will be free and fair.
What gives you that feeling? It's still early in the day and you're having this.
Well, first of all, the personality of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not exactly known to be fair for me. When it comes to politics, they feel that the end justifies the means, and if they want to keep power, then they have to load the dice as much as possible. So there's that fear. Then there's the fear of the kind of government that he runs. He runs a government of crony capitalism, a government where a lot of people in that government will do a lot to hold on to office. You have ministers who would do everything possible to churn out millions of votes from their states. You have senators, from the Senate president, others who will do a lot to ensure that they protect what they have within that crony capitalist system. So I have no confidence that, that election will be free and fair. But we are politicians and we will go into the field, but we hope that Nigerians too will also mount the adequate pressure when the time comes. I mean, look, the electoral agencies have been compromised before in times past. In the 2007 election of Umaru Musa Yar'Adua was adjudged not to be as free and fair as it should have been. So this time around, we look forward to that. But if INEC is able to come out, or the legislature is able to come out and say, we are going to codify the electoral aspects of the electoral law and make it mandatory for INEC to use it, then I think we stand a good chance. But as politicians, what we are going to do is to start from the political side of it and say that let us have a very strong opposition that will present one strong candidate or present the strongest ticket possible to confront Bola Tinubu, and then we come to the issue of INEC.
So you have a feeling that 2027 election will be rigged?
I do not expect it to be rigged. I do not want it to be rigged, but I do not put rigging beyond those who are currently in power.
How do you think it could be rigged? With what? Is it by INEC or what? In what way? I mean, you've seen things play out. In what way do you think if it's going to be rigged, it's going to be rigged?
Well, we are keeping our eyes on a lot of things, to be fair, Sheon. One of the things we are keeping our eyes on, which, ADC raised the alarm about recently, was the number of voters that were coming out from certain states, the number of mass voter registration that you had from certain states. We're also keeping a very close eye on who becomes the INEC chairman. I think that's going to be very important. We want to see the ties that they have to the APC, especially to the president's cabal. So I think those will be indications of their plans, of the plans that they have. But I know this for a fact, that if Nigerians come out heavily to vote against the hardship of the APC, if Nigerians come out heavily to vote against the poverty of the APC, if Nigerians come out heavily to vote against the misgovernance of the APC, then even rigging will not be able to upturn the electoral defeat that is facing the APC. So we are keeping our eyes on the situation. I do not expect it to be rigged. I do not want it to be rigged, but I do not put rigging beyond the powers of those who are currently in power.
You said that Tinubu's government is more unpopular than in any Nigeria's history since amalgamation. That's a very heavy statement.
And
what metrics? What metrics or realities are you basing your assumptions?
A government that came in with 37.7% of the voting share, 37% of the voting share, that already puts him at par with Shagari's election, and Shagari was running in a crowded field of about 5 candidates. Okay, so it started out in power as the most unpopular government in this democracy. Look, if we were running an absolute majority system, Bola Tinubu would not be in Aso Rock today. But I think, a lot of people, especially those who moved out of the PDP at the time, thought that we would have a rerun election and then you could have this opposition coalition at that time for the 2023 election. But unfortunately, that's not the system Nigeria runs. Nigeria runs a first past the post system where even if you have 16%, as long as you are the highest, then you come into office. But Bola Tinubu got less than 50%, which means that the number of people that supported him at that time, 36%, that's less than 1 in 3, that's about 1 in 3 Nigerians. And I do not think he has become more popular since then. So I believe that, the numbers have even dwindled. So no matter how much they try to boost it, if you couldn't win up to 50% in an election of 3 people, then in one-on-one, I don't think that he would survive it.
And the feeling is that the only way opposition can defeat Bola Tinubu is if they coalesce.
Yes.
PDP, ADC, Labour Party. But if you have a 3-4 way in this election, is an easy pathway for Tinubu's victory in 2027. Do you think so?
So, to some extent, yes. But on the other hand, you have the fact that the PDP is already being seen for what it is. PDP is being seen as a party that is more of an appendage of the APC. I think a lot of things will play out between now and the elections, where people will start to see the PDP for what some of their leaders are doing. Okay, and I also think that a lot of PDP leaders will support the ADC, while some of them will choose to support the APC. So at the end of the day, it's going to be APC versus ADC. Today in Nigeria, anybody who is serious about unseating Bola Tinubu is with the coalition. But beyond the party tags, I think the more important thing are the names of those people who presented themselves in the last election. Atiku Abubakar was there. He got 6.98 million votes. His Excellency Peter Obi was also there, 6.1 million votes. put those together, it defeats Bola Tinubu. So for me, the strongest ticket will simply be an Atiku Obi ticket to face Bola Tinubu in 2027, and Nigerians are guaranteed a better chance at victory.
You think Peter Obi he said he's not deputizing anymore. He's told me in an interview that he's not deputizing and he's going to run. He's going to be on the ballot.
Well, so it is not deputizing at this point anymore. Peter Obi has come out to express that he wanted to be president in 2023. Okay? Now we have to look for how best to get them to work together. I think that, it cannot just be a situation of let's run with Atiku Abubakar or let's run with Peter Obi. I think the best bet would be to have the two of them on that ticket and give Nigerians this sort of sense of co-presidency. I mean, we're already seeing it sort of in the administration of the country, where you have former Governor Nyesom Wike, portraying himself as a co-president. So why can't we have a co-presidency in that regard? So I think there will be discussions, especially within the ADC, where His Excellency Peter Obi, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar will sit down, have a solid arrangement that will see the both of them into power. Yeah. And so that way Nigerians get a sort of, you vote once and you get twice the benefits.
So you still think that it's an Atiku, Peter Obi, the 2019 pair that can beat Bola Tinubu?
I think that's the strongest ticket that we can present, that the opposition can present. I think there are other pathways. Yeah. There are other pathways. I see one pathway for Atiku through the south, through the southwest. I see another pathway through the south-south. But I think, the strongest ticket will be having that marriage of those two candidates, having them and having both of them run simultaneously politically driven campaigns across the country. You have Peter Obi campaigning in one area, you have Atiku Abubakar campaigning in another area, and their ideas are together. And I think, because of the fact that both of them have similar political ideologies, it will be probably the easiest thing to do. But that is even easier. It's an easier task than, getting the ADC to differentiate itself from the APC at this point.
But there are feelers also that it's not even an Atiku ticket that is scary to the APC. It's a Jonathan ticket.
Well, former President Goodluck Jonathan is a formidable candidate. And I respect him tremendously. If he comes into the race, that's fine. If he emerges a strong candidate, I think that's also fine. But I think, I'll put it this way. The boldness of Atiku Abubakar to run in elections simultaneously, especially after he has lost, it is I've lost an election before. I almost didn't want to come out. I almost didn't want to come out of my house. That man bounces back after every election. Not every politician has that in Nigeria. Atiku Abubakar has the heart. It is solid. And having said that, I think that would answer the question about certain other personalities. Not everybody has that kind of heart in politics. A heart of, look, if I'm going to go into the race, if I contest primaries with this 43-year-old guy and this 43-year-old guy defeats me, I'll work for the 43-year-old guy. That's Atiku Abubakar for you. It doesn't matter. Would I contest against him tomorrow? Yes, I will gladly face him again. But not everybody wants to have that kind of contest. Not everybody wants to come into that
I've heard a few
contest.
APC members say, look, if Atiku is on the ballot again, in fact, they will be very happy. And they have confessed that what is scaring them is Jonathan.
Well, that's fine.
That Jonathan is a scary...
That's fine.
He's a scary
that's what I'm saying. If Goodluck Jonathan comes into the primaries, if he can come into the primaries and contest in a competitive primaries and he wins, we all will support him.
So if Jonathan runs in the platform of the PDP,
yes,
and Atiku or someone else runs on the platform of the ADC, don't you think that is going to also be...
Then APC loses. APC loses. APC would have no base in that election. So the scenario, there are several scenarios, and I think, all of them are all hypotheses at this point. But the last election was heavily ethnicized. Fortunately or unfortunately for us, Atiku Abubakar chose to run as a unifier. And rather than playing the ethnic card, it wasn't a very strong ethnic card to play anyway, because there was a lot of how would the Fulanis continue in power. So it wasn't, so we could not even play that card. He had to play the unifier card. But people did not buy that unifier card. But if you put it in an election where Goodluck Jonathan is trying to capture the South-South, Bola Tinubu is trying to pump out numbers from the Southwest, then we would also return to our bases in the Southeast and the North and pull out those numbers as well.
You don't think this is the year we are going into is the year of the young people?
The year of the young people. Well, I think, I think we should have had that. If you're talking politically, I think we should have had that for quite a while. Several governments have been unable to unlock the door for young people. In fact, in certain circles, when they say young people, they don't even consider people like us young people. They consider people in their 50s. And so when they say these young men, they are talking of people in their 50s. Those are in certain circles. I think, Nigerians deserve a party that recognizes the strength of those young people, Gen Z, Gen Alpha even, that recognizes those strengths and harnesses them. So I think, yes, we are talking the year of the young people, but we also acknowledge our own shortcomings. That, Bola Tinubu is a behemoth. Taking him on is not going to be unseated easily. Okay, there is going to be, there has to be a rallying point. And I think, the ADC is just perfect for that, because this is a party that is coming out to say 35 to 50% of our positions will be reserved for young people and women. And I think, this just makes it indeed the year.
But your principal, Atiku Abubakar, says that he's ready to step down for a younger candidate if he's defeated in the primaries of the ADC. Do you think that the ADC should field a younger candidate?
I think the ADC should field Atiku Abubakar. That's what I think.
Not Amechi.
I think Atiku Abubakar is the strongest candidate presently. And without due respect to everybody, in this race, I think, the strongest ticket is the ticket that I had mentioned, having the two of them together. But I think, when it comes to defeating Bola Tinubu, I think Atiku Abubakar stands a very strong edge, because there are certain factors that are going to come to play in 2027. Name recognition, the ability to pull structures from all over the country. Atiku Abubakar has that. And I think, this will happen. Again, what Atiku Abubakar has said, what he said in that interview, he was saying, look, this is who he has been. He has been consistent on this. He lost the primaries, came third in the primaries, and he stepped down for Chief M.K. Abiola in 1992. He lost the primaries to Goodluck Jonathan in 2011. He worked for Goodluck Jonathan in that same election, and he delivered Adamawa State for him. He lost 2015 to General Muhammadu Buhari in Lagos, 2014. And in the 2015 election, he delivered Adamawa for Muhammadu Buhari. That's who Atiku Abubakar is. If you defeat him freely, fairly, squarely, he will support you in any election.
This is what some members of the Obedient movement, this is what they're saying. They're saying that Peter Obi is not ready to be part of a dollarized primaries. Don't you think the coalition is already disorganized in this?
I'll say this. I respect the Obedient movement tremendously. What that movement has been able to achieve in the past few years in this country is remarkable. What that movement now needs is the ability to put itself within a platform and push that platform forward. Pre-independence, we had the Zikist movement. Okay, the Zikist movement was very, very strong, but then it moved and coalesced into the NCNC, and that is when they began to express themselves politically. I think the Obedient movement at this point should change from a movement and become a political party. Now, when it comes to this dollarized, nobody wants to participate in dollarized primaries. What really wins primaries is not the dollars you bring. We know people who brought dollars, in the last primaries in PDP. They've always brought the dollars. Atiku Abubakar has always defeated them. And the reason is, Atiku Abubakar is a team player. And that's why I say when it comes to structure, we have no fears. Okay? We have zero fears. I can say this for a fact. Atiku Abubakar will win party primaries without spending a kobo of his own. Because the moment there are people who bank on Atiku Abubakar's goodwill to win gubernatorial elections. There are people who will bank on Atiku Abubakar's goodwill to win senatorial elections. Okay? People will commit themselves for Atiku Abubakar. But when people focus, the primaries was dollarized, the primaries was nairaized or was poundized, focus on what you yourself can do. Atiku doesn't need to spend in those elections. Atiku's clout is what brings it in. And again, it's a strong point for him because he is the kind of leader who, perhaps I should say that he did not need to let me know that he wanted to leave PDP. But about 6 months before he left, he was in London. I was also, in the city, and he called me and said, and we had that discussion, and he mentioned that this was what was going to happen. And I say that to say that he's somebody who carries people along, and people trust him, people can look up to him. So wherever he is, whichever party he is in, there are people who are willing to go the extra mile for Atiku. So it's not about dollarized. Nobody wants to participate in dollarized primaries. But a popular candidate will always remain a popular candidate.
The feeling is that Atiku, this is an Atiku coalition, and the fear is that Atiku is going to buy the primaries. Buy the ticket.
Even though Atiku Abubakar has been very,
those
very
are the
careful.
feelers.
Atiku Abubakar has been very, very careful not to project himself left, front, and center of this. But again, when you are big, you are big. You can't, Atiku Abubakar cannot be in a coalition, and people would naturally say it's an Atiku coalition. But I will say this, that every effort is going to be on making sure that everybody is pulled along. That has always been Atiku Abubakar's style. You saw him since he came back into the country, visiting this leader, visiting that leader, holding this meeting, holding this consultation. That is Atiku Abubakar's style. Some people criticize us sometimes and say, on Atiku Abubakar's Twitter handle, there's always a lot of greeting this, greeting that. Those people you are greeting, that's one power base in one place in Katsina, that's one power base in one place in Anambra. Even though the votes didn't come, you saw how, even though the votes didn't come from the Southeast in the last election, you see how he still celebrates, his friends that are there. And that is what people say, and that is what people love. Atiku Abubakar has close friends, in several states. And these people will do anything for Atiku Abubakar. Right.
Let me take you to Lagos. You've played some politics in Lagos. I'm very sure you are very disappointed in what happened in the PDP in Lagos.
Yes.
And there is, this growing tension politically in Lagos about this issue of indigenous sheep and those who think that Lagos is a no man's land. You're a Lagosian, isn't it?
I'm from Osun State, but I've lived all my life in Lagos. I was born in Lagos State, and
so you are one of those people who believe that Lagos is a no man's land.
No, I think there are people who are indigenous to Lagos, and I also think that Lagos is the commercial center of Nigeria, and for you to be the commercial center of Nigeria, it means Lagos belongs to the enterprising. Lagos belongs to the commercial. The history of Lagos is that in the 18th century, the Portuguese came into Lagos. They were the ones who named Lagos. They came into Lagos for commerce. Okay, commerce has always been the center point of Lagos. So if you are not adding value to the state, then there's a problem. So commerce, enterprise, business, that's what Lagos is about. It's just unfortunate to me that successive governors since 1999 in Lagos State are people who have never managed business for one day in their lives before.
What do you mean?
All of them.
Bola Tinubu?
But no business.
But his
businesses came after.
He's been in a private sector.
He was a private sector. He was working for someone. He never managed a business as an entrepreneur. And this is somebody who is managing an entrepreneurial state. The same thing with Raji Fashola, with all due respect to him, he was also, from employment with a law firm. He had never known what it was to pay salaries, never known. And that is why these guys go around destroying small businesses all over Lagos. You see an Okada rider and the first thing that comes to your head is to destroy his Okada. You see somebody trying to sell something by the roadside, first thing that comes to your head is destroy the stall. Imagine an entrepreneurial governor governing Lagos State. That person will look at the stall and think, how can I create a night market?
Who is an entrepreneurial candidate?
Well, I think there are several. I could put names forward. Gbadebo Roadvival, I think, is an entrepreneurial candidate. I think that's someone who understands the mentality of Lagos, understands the heartbeat of Lagos. I look forward to having him as a candidate, possibly, if the primaries go well within the ADC. That might be showing my hand too early, but that's my personal opinion, not the opinion of the Atiku campaign anyway. I'm just saying that Gbadebo is my friend. I think he understands. We've discussed these ideas. I think, we should have that. But Lagos deserves a governor that understands the spirit of Lagos. So
Lagos is no man's land. No. Anybody can... Lagos is for the taking of anyone.
Lagos is for the enterprising. Lagos is for the commercial. The people who found.
So you might be Lagos an Igbo man, as long as you are enterprising. People. So Uche Okafor can be the House of Reps member of Lagos in.
Lagos was welcomed. Lagos was welcomed.
In Ikeja.
Lagos was named. Lagos was named Lagos by the Portuguese. The Portuguese came to buy slaves in Lagos.
So you are saying that it was okay. I'm saying that anyone from anywhere around the country can run it.
I'm saying what gives Lagos that brand is the fact that Lagos is a commercial state.
So Echukudi can run Lagos, right, as a governor?
I don't have a problem with Echukudi running Lagos State. I honestly do not have a problem with it. As long as, certain things are also put in place, you understand, to protect the interest of the indigenous people of Lagos State. Again, for me, it's not just, Lagos is not, you don't just come and say, it belongs to this ethnicity or it belongs to that ethnicity. I don't think in terms of such prisms.
Is Lagos a Yoruba land in your own
I don't
view?
think in terms of such prisms. Lagos historically is Yoruba land. But Lagos over the years has gone through several revolutions. Lagos is also undergoing an evolution now. Now, the rights of the indigenous people of Lagos will always be enshrined, must always be enshrined. But we must also understand that Lagos is no longer... It no longer just belongs to Lagosians. Look, there was a point in time in the world where Saudi Arabia was the center of the world. Okay, if you were a musician, if you were an artist, if you were a magician, you wanted to perform in Saudi Arabia. Was a time, or up till now, where America is the center of the world. If you haven't performed at certain locations in America, if you haven't fought as a boxer, if you haven't fought as a wrestler in certain locations in America, you can't be considered to be at the heart of your craft. If Lagos wants to be the center of Nigeria, then Lagos must be willing to welcome people. So I don't mind who is governor of Lagos, as long as that person is commercially driven, that person is entrepreneurially driven. Okay? So I have zero issues with that. But I say that it must all be on the basis of the indigenous people of Lagos State.
Do you also think maybe that this is a time for a much younger people to run the affairs of Lagos? Take, for example, there are those who are saying, Sheyi Tinubu. Why did you laugh?
That's an extension of Bola Tinubu. I mean,
is that a crime?
No. So when we say young people, we don't necessarily mean the children of the oligarchs. We mean the children of nobodies. We mean young people like us. People whose fathers don't have brand names, okay? But when you're bringing your own children and telling me that, oh, these are the new young people. I mean, his father was governor less than 20 years ago. Now we want him to, I mean, I don't want to, I mean, I respect him. I respect his achievements, but I don't want to dignify that conversation at this point in time. If we are talking young people, then let's look outside those APC power circles.
So you think that Sheyi Tinubu's rights constitutionally should be deprived? He should be deprived of his constitutional right because it's of his father.
His right to run is also equivalent to my right to oppose that ticket. I'm not looking at children of the oligarchs. I'm not looking at children of the oligarchs as the young people of my generation. I don't think that a lot of them share the same struggles and pains that the majority of young people in Nigeria and in Lagos have shared.
Globally, there are those who have latched on the credibility and climb on the shoulders of their parents to political office.
Which is fair. But then again, you would come to the
and who have also learned
the voters. You come to the voters and you go through the process.
Yeah.
I mean, you alluded to it here briefly when you said Bola Tinubu has been at the helm of affairs in Lagos State, has been in control of the politics of Lagos State, and this is somebody who has produced the last few governors from that state. Now you want to put your son there. Well, I mean, I don't want to.
You don't like the idea of a Sheyi Tinubu as governor of Lagos.
I would say I might like the idea of a Sheyi Tinubu as who he is. But Sheyi Tinubu as governor of Lagos State, I will work against that ticket proudly.
You will work against it.
Oh, yes.
It doesn't mean that they cannot stand.
Opposition. I mean, it can stand.
If Sheyi Tinubu becomes Lagos State governor today, what would you do?
Well, I mean, what am I supposed to do if he emerges free, fair, democratically, Mr. Governor? I mean, look, it's democracy.
Do you think he could be a good governor of Lagos State?
Well, I don't know his capabilities. I've not seen him tested. I mean, I don't know his capabilities outside being the son of the president. Do you, Shane? I haven't seen his capabilities. I mean, I haven't seen him run a business like you are running here. I haven't seen him do things with innovation like you are doing. I haven't seen him come up. What are his grand signatures? What are his ideas? Who is he apart from being the president of the son of the president? I mean, so with all due respect to him and whatever aspiration he may have, I think it would be quite an overreach. For him to run to be, I want to believe that it's a rumor. I'm also in certain circles, and I've also heard, some of the moves that are being made. I think they are exploring it, but I think, it's not going to fly.
Demola Olarewaju, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thank you very much, Shane.
I appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure.
I appreciate it. Well, that's the episode of the Micon podcast today. And I'm hoping that one way or the other, you've been able to either like or dislike the views of the guests on this episode. But whatever it is that you have been able to glean from this episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and follow all of our social media and all of the platforms upon which this podcast is reaching you. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. You can get this episode on every platform where you get your podcast. Thank you so much indeed. I'm Sean Wakimaloye. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Mike On Podcast with Seun Okimbaloye. Mike On Podcast for the independent mind.